Hey guys, I hope you're having a great week. We're going to go ahead and do our 1.02 quiz review. And remember that our questions are not going to be identical to what's on the quiz, but they're going to be very similar. And I'm going to cover a bunch of review so that you can watch this before you take your quiz and be prepared. And I apologize, but our dog is in here and he is loving this review video as well. So we're going to take a look at question number 1. We have a negative and we're adding it with a positive. And remember how we talked about this week, we talked about taking the absolute value of each number. So we take the absolute value of 6, negative 6, and we get positive 6. We take the absolute value of 4 and we get positive 4. Now, why is this important? Because once we take the absolute value of these numbers, that's how we know the sign of our answer. We know that 6 is the larger value, which means that our answer is going to be negative. We can also rewrite this to say 4 minus 6, which is going to give us, and don't forget, you can use your calculator. So if you put in 4 minus 6 in your calculator, you're going to get negative 2. Now, I love this next slide because it shows, I'm going to go ahead and clear all of these drawings. It shows us the answer on a number line, and you can see it more clearly here. So it started at the negative 6 and it added 4. And so that's how they ended up at the negative 2. So it's another way to solve the problem. Taking a look at adding and subtracting with decimals is so much fun because it's the same as when we add and subtract with our whole numbers. So the same rules are still going to apply. So when we, where is my annotate? When we take a look here at negative 3.06 minus negative 5.02, remember, whenever we are minusing a negative, it's the same as adding a positive. So changing our color here, our subtraction turns to adding and our negative turns to positive. So this turns to negative 3.06 plus a positive 5.02. And when we rewrite this, we can rewrite it and also use our calculator by saying 5.02 minus 3.06. We can line it up also by doing minus 3.06. Now, taking a look at this, we automatically know that 5.02 is larger than 3.06. So when we subtract, our answer is going to be positive, but we can also take a look at the absolute value of 3.06, the absolute value of positive 5.02, and know that 5.02 is positive, and it's also larger, so our answer is going to be positive. Now, remember, we have our calculators, so we can put in 5.02, we can subtract that 3.06, and then we can get our number. And don't forget, these calculators, you can use them on our quizzes, and then you can also use them on progress monitoring and on the progress monitoring in person. So we end up with 1.96 as our answer. Clear this drawing and go to our next slide. So for question 3, we are adding and subtracting negative fractions, and just like for whole numbers and for decimals, our negative and positive rules are going to stay the same. The fun thing about these two fractions, when we take a look at them, what is the first thing that we're looking at? Well, first thing we're looking at is our denominators, because when we add and subtract fractions with denominators, we want to make sure they're the same. And lucky for us, they are both the same because they are both 8, which means we do not have to convert them and we don't have to find common denominators. So we have negative 7/8 plus negative 1/8. So we're going to obviously keep our common denominator. And since we are adding 2 negatives, what's fun about that is when you're adding 2 negatives, we know that our answer is going to be negative. And we're going to add as if there was never a negative in the picture, and then make sure that we slap that negative back on. So 7 plus 1 is going to give us 8. So our answer equals negative 8/8. Now, what is another way of saying when we have the same, our numerator and our denominator are the same? We can look at it as saying 8 divided by 8, or we can take a look at 8/8 and remind ourselves that that's the same as a whole. So 8 divided by 8 or 8/8 is going to equal 1. Just as if you had 2/2 or 3/3, any number over itself or under itself is the same as a whole. It's the same as 1. Next slide. Question number 4. Oop, I gotta clear my drawings here. Now, what's different about this question than the last? Not only do we have different denominators, but we also have a mixed number. So we're going to need to do a couple things. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write this 7/8 down here. And I'm going to cover something that you can do with the calculator also. But we're going to convert this mixed number into an improper fraction. So we have 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we end up with 7/2. Now, being able to use the calculator means that we could do 7 divided by 8, we could get that decimal, and then we could do 7 divided by 2, we could get that decimal, and we could combine them that way. I'm going to go ahead and work on it with the fraction just so we can practice converting with common denominators. So we have 7/8 minus 7/2, and we're going to find our common denominator. And I'm going to use 8. So we're left with negative 7/8 plus, we still keep our negative, 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 4 times 7 is going to give us 28. And so we still keep that negative, right? So we know our answer is going to be negative. We also know that our denominator is going to be 8. So we're going to add that 7 and the 28 as if there were no negatives, because we have a negative plus a negative. So we end up with 7 plus 28. We get 35/8, negative 35/8. We can also take this mixed number and we can turn it in, or I'm sorry, we can take this improper fraction and turn it into a mixed number by saying, how many times does 8 go into 35? Well, we know that 8 times 2 is 16. We know that 8 times 3 is 24. We know that 8 times 4 is 40, which we know that that's going to be too hot. Or I'm sorry, 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. So 8 times 5 is going to be too high, but 8 times 4 is 32, which is perfect. So 4 is going to be our whole number. And then we're going to do 35 minus 32, which is going to give us 3/8. So our answer would be 4 3/8. Or you could say, put that negative, we could also say 35/8. We're getting close to the finish here. All right, question 6, and I'm going to go ahead and clear my drawings. Malachi hikes for 2.5 miles and stops for lunch. Then he hikes 1.5 more. How many did he hike altogether? So if he is going up 2.5 miles, and I'm assuming that his hike is on a mountain, and then he goes, switch our color here, we'll do blue. He goes another 1.5. How much did he hike altogether? So we are going to add these because that's going to tell us the total distance that he covered. So again, you can use your calculator, or just because this one's easy, I'm going to show you this way. So 5 plus 5 is 10. And then we have 2 plus 1 plus 1. And then don't forget, when we're adding, we have to remember our decimal. So 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. So we end up with 4. So he did 4 miles total. So he took himself a really good hike. All right, there are these drawings. Mrs. Tulips bought $56.12 worth of groceries. However, she had coupons worth $9.85 or $9.85. How much did she spend for the groceries? So because we know she had coupons, coupons mean we're going to subtract, because you know when you use a coupon, you save money. Coupons isn't tax where the total goes up. So since we're subtracting, because we're taking away, we're going to do 56.12, and we are going to subtract 9.85. And remember, again, we can use our calculators. So we're doing 56.12 subtracting 9.85. How much did she pay in total? So she paid, and granted, we're not adding tax to this, so we're assuming it's built in, $46.27. So $46.26. So what is next? We are going to, you are now prepared. You can go ahead and take your 1.02 quiz. Feel free to have this in the background that you can reference for help, and you can also use your notes, which is found in OMHS under this unit. Look for those B's, those little B's, and that will help you know that that is the section for notes. You also want to make sure that you're working on IXL skill FNS. If you need any help or there's anything that we can do to support you, please don't hesitate to reach out.